Ambassador Lisa Taylor stood at the window of her office on the 157th floor of the Earth Embassy on Centauri Prime. The three suns of the alien world painted the sky in shades of purple and orange. Her reflection showed a tired woman in her 40s, with graying brown hair tied back in a neat bun. The weight of the message she had just received made her shoulders feel heavy. "They want us to do what?" Admiral Carol Matthews' voice came through the comm system, filled with disbelief. "The Galactic Council demands we stop all military expansion immediately," Lisa replied, turning away from the window. "They're sending inspectors next week." The Admiral's hologram flickered in the center of the room. Even through the blue light of the projection, Lisa could see the frustration on her old friend's face. Carol had spent the last 15 years building Earth's defense fleet into something humanity could be proud of. "Have they forgotten what happened to the Martian colonies last year?" Carol asked. "If we hadn't had the new shield systems, those raiders would have killed thousands." Lisa sat down at her desk, pushing aside a stack of diplomatic papers. "The peaceful species are scared of us, Carol. They look at what Dr. Wright is building and see weapons of war, not shields of protection." As if summoned by his name, Dr. Peter Wright's hologram joined their conversation. The weapons developer looked like he hadn't slept in days, his lab coat wrinkled and his short beard untrimmed. "The Aegis system isn't a weapon," he said quickly. "It's the most advanced defensive technology ever created. The energy shield can stop any known weapon in the galaxy. Try explaining that to a species that hasn't had a war in 10,000 years, Lisa sighed. "The Florians are leading the complaints. They say our military growth goes against the Council's founding principles." Carol's hologram paced back and forth. "The Florians live on a paradise world with no natural predators. They've never had to fight for survival. Earth wasn't so lucky. We learned the hard way that the galaxy isn't always friendly." Peter nodded, bringing up a display of the Aegis system. The hologram showed a complex network of energy fields surrounding a planet. Besides, the system is already operational on Earth, Mars, and 3 colony worlds. "We can't just shut it down." "And we won't," Carol said firmly. "Humanity has a right to protect itself." Lisa held up her hand, a gesture she often used in diplomatic meetings. "We need to be smart about this. The Council has the power to impose trade sanctions. They could cut us off from vital resources." The 3 humans fell silent, each lost in their own thoughts. The room's automatic systems dimmed the windows as one of Centauri Prime's suns set, leaving 2 others to paint the sky in deeper shades of purple. "What if we gave them a demonstration?" Peter suggested suddenly. "Not of its weapon-stopping capabilities, but of its humanitarian uses." Lisa leaned forward, interested. "Go on." "The Aegis system doesn't just stop weapons. It can deflect asteroids, protect against solar flares, even create safe corridors for ships in trouble. We could show them it's about saving lives, not taking them." Carol's hologram smiled for the first time. "I like it. The Council inspection team includes representatives from the Rigelians. They lost a colony to a solar flare last year. If we show them how Aegis could have prevented that." "It's a good start," Lisa agreed, "but we need more. The Council sees Earth as a warlike species playing with dangerous toys. We need to change that image." The meeting was interrupted by an urgent message flashing across Lisa's desktop. Her eyes widened as she read it. "Speaking of changing images, the Council just added someone to the inspection team. Observer Zixtal." Carol groaned. "The Rigelian Peace Commissioner. He's famous for opposing any military technology. Or infamous, depending on who you ask," Peter added. "He once tried to ban ships having weapons for self-defense against pirates." Lisa stood up and began pacing, her mind working through diplomatic protocols and possibilities. "This complicates things, but it might also be an opportunity. Zixtal has influence. If we can convince him that our technology serves peace, we have 5 days before they arrive," Carol said. Peter Can you prepare a demonstration that will impress even a dedicated pacifist? The scientist's hologram flickered as he checked something on his end. I'll need to modify the testing protocols, but yes, I can show them things that will make their mandibles drop. Good. Lisa stopped pacing and faced her friend's holograms. Carol, we need to make sure every ship, every crew member, every piece of technology shows our best face. No military drills during the inspection. No weapon tests. Nothing that could be seen as aggressive. The Admiral nodded, though Lisa could tell she wasn't happy about it. I'll send out the orders. But Lisa, if something happens during the inspection, we can't stand down our defenses. The safety of our people comes first. Agreed. Lisa looked out at the alien sunset again. Earth has too many enemies out there to play nice all the time. But maybe we can show the Council that being strong doesn't mean being dangerous. Peter's hologram started to fade. I should get back to the lab. Those demonstrations won't prepare themselves. And I have a fleet to reorganize. Carol added. Try not to worry too much, Lisa. We faced worse than a group of worry politicians. As their holograms disappeared, Lisa remained at the window. Below her, the lights of the alien city began to come on, creating rivers of color in the growing darkness. Somewhere up there, past the purple sky and the three suns, Earth's ships patrolled the space lanes, keeping humanity safe. She touched the window, her fingers leaving marks on the perfect surface. We're not the barbarians they think we are, she whispered to herself. But we're not going to be helpless again either. Her computer chimed with another message. More details about the inspection team, more diplomatic protocols to follow, more worries to keep her up at night. Lisa Taylor squared her shoulders and turned back to her desk. Humanity had fought too hard and come too far to back down now. The next 5 days would determine whether Earth's defenders would be seen as guardians or threats. She had work to do. In his lab on Mars, Peter Wright was already deep into his modifications of the Aegis demonstration protocols. Holographic displays surrounded him, showing complex energy patterns and defense scenarios. The system had saved thousands of lives already, but convincing a group of pacifist aliens of its value would be his greatest challenge yet. Admiral Matthews stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching Earth's defense fleet through the main viewport. Ships moved in precise patterns, preparing to show the Council that humanity's strength wasn't something to fear, but something that could protect them all. 3 different people, 3 different approaches to the same problem. As the stars wheeled overhead, humanity's representatives prepared to face one of their greatest diplomatic challenges yet. The galaxy was watching, and Earth couldn't afford to fail. Captain Ryan Howard stood perfectly still as the alien inspection team walked onto the bridge of the EDF Valiant. The ship's clean, bright surfaces gleamed under the lights. Every crew member was in their best uniform. Every display showed only peaceful navigation data. Even the weapon stations had been temporarily covered with scientific equipment. Observer Zixtal led the group, his tall, insect-like form towering over the human crew. The Regellian's compound eyes reflected the bridge lights as he studied everything with obvious disapproval. Behind him, representatives from 5 other alien species followed, each carrying data tablets and scanning devices. "Welcome aboard the Valiant," Ryan said, using his most diplomatic voice. "We're honored to have the Council inspection team with us today." Lieutenant Susan Martinez stood at her station, trying not to fidget as the aliens walked past. The weapons console in front of her had been hidden behind star mapping equipment, but she could still access all systems if needed. Captain Howard had been very clear. They would play nice, but they would not be defenseless. Zixtal's antennae twitched. "This vessel is heavily armed," he said. It wasn't a question. "The Valiant is a patrol ship," Ryan explained. "We help lost vessels, respond to distress calls, and protect trading lanes from pirates." "Protect?" Zixtal's voice carried a hint of distaste. "With weapons that could destroy a small moon." Before Ryan could answer, the ship's emergency alert system activated. Red lights flashed. but the usual alarm was muted out of respect for the visitor's sensitive hearing. "Captain," Susan called out, her fingers already moving across her hidden console. "Multiple unknown ships just appeared near Collins' colony. They're not responding to hails." The alien inspection team crowded around the main display. Collins' colony was one of Earth's newer settlements, home to about 50,000 people. The screen showed 12 ships of unknown design dropping out of faster-than-light travel. "They're charging weapons," Susan reported, her voice steady despite the tension. Observer Zixtal's antennae stood straight up. "You see, violence is always the answer for humans. These are probably your ships, staging an incident to justify your military." Ryan ignored the insult. "Lieutenant Martinez, show me the colony's Aegis status." The screen changed to show the defensive shield surrounding Collins' colony. Dr. Wright's latest upgrades were in place, giving the settlement the same protection as Earth itself. "Unknown ships are firing." Susan's hands flew across her console. The alien observers gasped as energy beams bright enough to melt planets struck the colony's shield. The Aegis system flared to life. Layers of energy absorbed and redirected the attack, protecting the thousands of people below. Ryan noticed that even Zixtal had fallen silent. "Colony Control reports no damage," Susan said. "Aegis is holding at 98% power." "Send the attackers a warning," Ryan ordered. "One chance to withdraw." The unknown ships responded by launching missiles. The Aegis shield caught them too, turning their explosions into harmless light shows. "Captain," Susan's voice was quieter now, "I'm detecting life signs from the attacking ships. They're Nexari." Several of the alien observers made sounds of fear. The Nexari were supposed to be a legend, a horror story about a species that hunted and destroyed younger civilizations. No one had seen them in centuries. "Launch rescue ships," Ryan ordered. "Get our people off the surface, just in case, and warm up the Valiant's weapons. If that shield fails, we're the colony's last line of defense." Observer Zixtal stepped forward. "Captain Howard, if these truly are Nexari, this ship cannot stand against them. We must retreat and inform the Council." Ryan turned to face the alien diplomat. "With all respect, Observer, I will not abandon our colony." The battle continued for 20 minutes. The Nexari ships tried everything to break through the Aegis shield. Their weapons were incredibly advanced, but the human defensive system held firm. Each impact made the alien observers flinch, but Susan noticed they were watching with increasing interest. "Captain," Susan called out, "the Nexari ships are changing formation. I think, yes, they're preparing to make a direct assault on the shield." Ryan studied the tactical display. "They'll concentrate all their firepower on one spot. Lieutenant, do we have a firing solution?" "Yes, sir. Clean shots on all 12 ships." Observer Zixtal's antennae waved in agitation. "You cannot. Council law forbids firing on unknown species without." The Nexari attack began. 12 energy beams combined into one massive strike against the colony shield. The Aegis system held, but power readings started to drop. "Shield at 60%, Susan reported. 55. 50. Ryan met Zixtal's compound eyes. "Observer, those are not unknown ships. They are hostile forces attacking civilians. Will you stand by and watch them die?" The alien diplomat looked at the screen, then at his fellow observers. Some of them nodded slightly. "You may proceed, Captain," Zixtal said quietly, "but observe all reasonable restraints." Ryan didn't waste time arguing about what reasonable meant. "Lieutenant Martinez, you may fire when ready. Disable their weapons if possible." Susan's fingers danced across her console. The Valiant's own weapons powered up, their covers sliding away. On the screen, precise energy pulses struck each Nexari ship exactly where their weapon systems were located. The attack on the colony stopped. The Nexari ships, their main weapons destroyed with surgical precision, turned to face the Valiant. "They're charging their engines," Susan reported. "Trying to run. Let them go, Ryan ordered. But download everything we can from their systems first. The Nexari ships vanished into faster-than-light speed, leaving behind only some debris from their damaged weapons. On the main screen, the Aegis shield still glowed softly around Colin's colony, protecting its people. Observer Zixtal stepped closer to Susan's station, studying the weapon controls with new interest. "You could have destroyed them all," he said. "It wasn't quite a question." "We could have," Ryan agreed. "But that's not our purpose. We build weapons and shields to protect, not to conquer." The alien diplomat's antennae moved in what Susan had learned was a thoughtful pattern. Perhaps we have misunderstood humanity's intentions. The Aegis system was built to defend, not attack. Susan added, bringing up the shield's power readings. "See, even after that assault, it could have held for another 3 hours, long enough for evacuation if needed." The other observers were talking quickly among themselves in various languages. Their scanning devices were focused on both the colony's shield and the Valiant's weapon systems. Ryan looked at the main screen, where Colin's colony still showed safe and protected. "Observer Zixtal, you came here to inspect our military capability. You've seen it in action. We could have destroyed those ships, but we chose to disable them instead. We could have hidden our defensive technology, but we shared it with you openly." The Rigelian was quiet for a long moment. "Yes," he said finally. "We have much to discuss with the Council, and much to reconsider about humanity's role in the galaxy." As the inspection team left the bridge, Susan looked up at her captain. "Sir, do you think they'll understand now?" Ryan watched the aliens leave, noting how they walked differently than when they had arrived. Their fear seemed to have been replaced by something else, something like respect. "I think they're starting to," he said. "Sometimes you have to show people that having strong weapons doesn't make you dangerous. It's how you use them that matters." The Valiant remained in orbit around Colin's colony for several more hours, monitoring for any sign of the Nexari returning. But Susan noticed that the alien observers spent that time studying the ship's defensive capabilities with great interest rather than suspicion. Perhaps, she thought, this was how peace really worked. Not by pretending to be harmless, but by proving you could be trusted with power. Security Chief Daniel Carter walked through the ruins of what had once been a thriving alien city. The buildings here were thousands of years old, their strange architecture still beautiful despite the damage. His boots crunched on broken glass and crushed stone as he led his team through the empty streets. "Dr. Bennett, are you getting any readings?" he asked into his comm unit. Dr. Catherine Bennett's voice came back clear through his helmet speakers. "Yes, and they're disturbing. This place wasn't destroyed recently. The damage is at least 50 years old." Daniel stopped and looked up at the 3 moons hanging in the alien sky. His team had come to this dead world following data they'd taken from the Nexari ships during their attack on Colin's colony. What they found was worse than anyone had expected. "How many cities like this have we found?" he asked, though he already knew the answer. "This is the 7th, Catherine replied. "All on different worlds, all with the same pattern of destruction. The Nexari didn't just attack these places. They wiped out entire civilizations. Behind them, Council member Vrina floated silently. The Andromedan representative had insisted on coming to see the evidence for herself. Her crystalline form caught the light of the moons, sending rainbow patterns across the ruins. "The Council should have known," Vrina said softly. "We should have investigated when these worlds went silent." Daniel's team spread out through the ruins, their scanners working to piece together what had happened here. The dead city was huge, stretching for miles in every direction. Somewhere in all this destruction was the proof they needed. "Chief Carter," one of his team called out, "we found their central data storage." Daniel and Catherine hurried to where a young security officer stood beside a damaged but intact building. Its walls were made of some kind of metal that had survived whatever destroyed the rest of the city. Catherine pulled out her advanced scanning equipment. "The power systems are dead, but the data crystals might still be good. if we can read them. Do it, Daniel ordered. He turned to Vrina. Council member, you should see this. Your people are experts in data crystal technology. The Andromedan floated closer, her crystalline hands extending toward the ancient storage systems. Yes, I can help. The patterns are similar to early Andromedan designs. They worked for an hour, Catherine and Vrina carefully extracting data, while Daniel's security team kept watch. The three moons moved slowly across the sky, casting different shadows as they worked. Finally, Catherine looked up from her scanner. Her face inside her helmet was pale. It's worse than we thought. These weren't just random attacks. The Nexari were following a plan. She connected her scanner to a portable hologram projector. Images floated in the air. Star maps, reports, and pictures of different alien species. Daniel recognized some of them from his studies of galactic history. The Nexari believe they're the only ones who deserve to rule space, Catherine explained. They hunt down young civilizations before they can become strong. These people, the Zarkali, were developing their first faster-than-light drives when the Nexari found them. Vrina's crystal form dimmed with sadness. An entire species gone before they could reach the stars. How many others? Daniel studied the star maps. According to this data, at least 15 civilizations in the last 100 years. The Nexari wait until a species is just starting to explore space, then they destroy them completely. But why didn't they succeed with Earth? Vrina asked. Catherine brought up more data. Because we were ready. Look at these records. The Nexari sent scout ships to Earth years ago. But every time they tested our defenses, we fought back, Daniel finished. The raiders that attacked the Martian colonies last year. The mysterious ships that disappeared near Jupiter. Those weren't random pirates. They were Nexari scouts. Vrina floated higher, her crystal body pulsing with emotional light. The Council criticized Earth for building weapons, for creating the Aegis system. We called you warlike, primitive, but you were right to prepare. Daniel walked to a broken window, looking out over the dead city. We didn't know about the Nexari specifically, but Earth learned the hard way that the galaxy can be dangerous. That's why we built our defenses, not to start fights, but to prevent this. He gestured at the ruins around them. There's more, Catherine said, her voice tight with concern. According to these records, the Nexari aren't finished. They have a list of target worlds, species that are just starting to reach for the stars. She projected another star map. Dozens of worlds were marked, each representing a civilization that didn't know it was marked for destruction. Some of these worlds are under Council protection, Vrina said, studying the map. But our protection is diplomatic, not military. We have no defenses that could stop a full Nexari attack. Daniel turned back to the group. Then maybe it's time for that to change. Earth's Aegis system proved it could stop their weapons. We could help protect these worlds. Catherine was still reading through the data. The Nexari are patient. They've been doing this for centuries, waiting until each species reaches just the right level of development. Advanced enough to be a potential threat, but not advanced enough to defend themselves. Like predators hunting the weak, Daniel said. He'd seen enough predators on Earth to recognize the pattern. Vrina's crystal form brightened suddenly. The Council meeting. We must take this evidence there immediately. The other representatives need to see what we found. Daniel nodded to his team, and they began packing up their equipment. Agreed. But we should send a warning to Earth first. If the Nexari know we found one of their target worlds, they might attack again, Catherine finished. I'll transmit the data to Dr. Wright. Maybe he can find weaknesses in their ship's designs. As they prepared to leave, Daniel took one last look at the dead city. The three moons had moved again, creating new shadows among the ruins. Somewhere out there, the Nexari were preparing to do this to another world, another species. Not this time, he said quietly. Not if we can help it. On their ship heading back to Council space, Catherine worked to organize the evidence, while Verena sent urgent messages to her fellow council members. Daniel watched the dead world shrink behind them through the ship's window. The Nexeri had hunted younger civilizations for centuries, destroying them before they could grow strong enough to fight back. But they had made a mistake when they attacked humanity. They had attacked a species that refused to be helpless, that built shields instead of hiding and weapons instead of surrendering. Now that mistake would cost them. Earth would not stand by and watch other species suffer the same fate as the Zarkali. The human war machine that had so worried the council would become a shield for those who couldn't defend themselves. Daniel smiled as their ship jumped to faster than light speed. The galaxy was about to change, and humanity would help lead that change, not through conquest or destruction, but by protecting those who needed protection. The truth about the Nexeri was finally out. Now it was time to do something about it. Commander Michelle Ross stood in front of the Galactic Council chamber, her dress uniform neat and crisp. The huge room was filled with representatives from over 200 species. Many of them had been Earth's critics just days ago. Now they watched her with different eyes. "The evidence is clear," she said, her voice carrying to every corner of the chamber. "The Nexeri have destroyed at least 15 developing civilizations. They plan to destroy more." Behind her, a large screen showed images from the dead world they had found. Each picture made the council members stir in their seats. Some made sounds of sadness or anger. Diplomatic Officer John Parker stood to her right, ready with more information. His job was to help build bridges between Earth and other species. Today that job was more important than ever. "We've identified 42 worlds on the Nexeri target list," John said. 12 of them are council protectorates, young species just beginning to reach for the stars. Representative Kralifak rose from his seat. His species, the Vorkath, had barely escaped destruction by the Nexeri a century ago. Only a lucky solar storm had saved their world. "The Nexeri attacked my people when we launched our first space station," Kralifak said. His deep voice shook with old fear. "We were not ready. We had no defenses, but humans." He turned to face Michelle. "Humans drove them away from their colony with ease." Michelle nodded. "The Aegis defense system was built to protect our worlds, but it can protect others too. That's why we're here." John stepped forward, bringing up new images on the screen. They showed Earth ships helping to install Aegis systems on other worlds. "We propose an alliance," John said. "Earth will share its defensive technology with any world that needs it. We'll help protect developing species until they can protect themselves." The council chamber filled with excited talk. Some representatives looked worried, others hopeful. Michelle watched them carefully, noting who seemed supportive and who might cause problems. "And what does Earth want in return?" Someone called out. "Will we become your servants?" "We want what we've always wanted," Michelle answered. "A safe galaxy where peaceful species can grow without fear." The Nexeri believe Mike makes right. We believe Mike should protect right. John brought up more images. These showed the Aegis system stopping different kinds of attacks, protecting cities and space stations. "The system is defensive only," he explained. "It cannot be used to attack. Each world that joins the alliance will control its own shields. Earth will simply help install and maintain them." Representative Kralifak moved to stand beside Michelle. "My people will join this alliance. We know the Nexeri threat. We cannot face it alone, but together we can stop them," Michelle finished. "Not just stop them, show them that their way is wrong. That strength doesn't have to mean destruction." A small furry alien stood up. Michelle recognized her as a representative of one of the species on the Nexeri target list. "How soon can you protect our world?" she asked. "Our scientists say we're close to our first faster-than-light test." "We've already started," John said. He showed a new image. Earth ships in orbit around her world, setting up the first pieces of an Aegis shield. "As soon as we found the target list, we began preparing defenses for the most vulnerable worlds." The council chamber grew quiet. What Earth had done, sending ships to protect other worlds without waiting for permission, could have been seen as an act of war. But the images showed Earth ships working openly, coordinating with local authorities, rushing to protect people who didn't even know they were in danger. "The Nexari will not stop," Michelle said into the silence. "They've hunted developing civilizations for centuries, but they've never faced united opposition before. They've never had to fight against worlds that could fight back." More representatives stood up, asking to join the alliance. John worked quickly, noting down names and coordinating with Earth's defense fleet. They would need many ships, many teams to protect all these worlds. Representative Kralthak raised his arms for quiet. "My people remember what it means to be hunted," he said. "We remember being alone, being afraid. But Earth offers us a different way. Not to cower in fear, but to stand together, to protect each other." Michelle looked out at the council chamber. Species that had evolved on thousands of different worlds, that had developed different ways of thinking and living. Now they were coming together, not in fear of humanity's strength, but in hope of sharing it. Earth's war machine, as some called it, was never meant for conquest, she said. It was built because we learned the hard way that space is not always safe. Now we offer its protection to all who need it. The next few hours were busy. John worked with council staff to draft alliance agreements. Michelle coordinated with Earth's fleet, directing ships to the worlds most likely to be attacked next. Representative Kralthak led a group of survivors, species who had faced the Nexari before, sharing their experiences and knowledge. As the day ended, Michelle stood at a window looking out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Nexari were probably planning their next attack. But they would find something different waiting for them. Not helpless victims, but protected worlds. Shields they couldn't break, and behind those shields, people they couldn't frighten. "Commander," John called from the door. "The first wave of alliance agreements is ready. 27 worlds want to join immediately." Michelle smiled. "Then we'd better get to work. Those shields won't build themselves." She took one last look at the stars. Earth had been criticized for building weapons, for preparing for war. But sometimes being ready for war was the best way to keep peace. Sometimes the strongest shields were the ones you built to protect others. The alliance was just beginning, but it felt right. Humanity had found its place in the galaxy, not as conquerors, not as victims, but as protectors. It was time to show the Nexari that the age of hunting helpless species was over. Earth's war machine was waking up, not to fight wars, but to prevent them. Not to destroy, but to defend. The galaxy was about to change, and humanity would help lead that change, one shield at a time. General Andrew Collins watched from the command center as another Aegis shield sparked to life around a distant world. The protective bubble of energy shimmered as it formed, ready to defend the young civilization below. In the 3 months since the alliance began, Earth had helped protect over 50 worlds. Shield strength at 100%. A technician reported. The Centauri team confirmed successful activation. Laura Phillips, the new council speaker representing Earth, stood beside Andrew. Her presence here was both diplomatic and practical. Every shield activation was a symbol of the new partnership between worlds. "That's the 3rd shield this week," she said, marking it off on her datapad. "The installation teams are getting faster." First Speaker Tulare, the reformed council's head, floated nearby. The ancient alien's tentacles moved in patterns of approval. The Nexari attacked 2 more worlds last month. Both times, they found Aegis shields waiting. Both times, they retreated. Andrew brought up a galaxy map showing all the protected worlds. Blue dots marked places where Aegis shields were active, green showed worlds waiting for installation, and red marked known Nexari attack sites. "They're learning," he said. "The Nexari aren't used to their targets being able to defend themselves. Each failed attack weakens their power over the galaxy." A young officer hurried up to them. "General, Speaker Phillips, first speaker, We're receiving a transmission from the Nexari. The command center went quiet. In all their centuries of hunting younger species, the Nexari had never tried to communicate. They simply attacked, destroyed, and moved on. Put it through, Andrew ordered. The main screen lit up with an image that made several people step back. The Nexari looked like a cross between Earth's ancient sea creatures and something from a nightmare. Multiple eyes studied them from a face covered in strange patterns. When it spoke, the universal translator turned its clicks and whistles into words. "You protect the weak," the Nexari said. "This violates the natural order. Strong species survive. Weak species die. This is the way of the universe." Laura stepped forward. "No, that's your way. You've spent centuries hunting civilizations that couldn't fight back. Called it natural when it was just cruel. Those days are over. You cannot protect them all." The Nexari clicked. "We have hunted for thousands of years. We will hunt for thousands more." Andrew touched a control, changing the galaxy map. Now it showed hundreds of worlds, all connected by lines of alliance and cooperation. "Look again," he said. "Every world you marked for death is now under protection. Every species you thought was weak is growing stronger, not through violence like yours, but through cooperation." The Nexari's patterns shifted, showing what might have been anger or confusion. Stronger species should dominate weaker ones. This is the law of nature. "No," first speaker Tulare said softly. "That is the law of fear. Nature also teaches cooperation, growth, and protection. Earth has shown us this truth." Laura brought up new images, ships from a dozen different species working together to install Aegis shields, young civilizations learning to use the defensive technology, worlds that had once been afraid now reaching confidently for the stars. "You can keep attacking," she told the Nexari, "but you'll never find another helpless victim. Every world you marked is now part of something larger. Every species you hope to destroy is now growing stronger." The Nexari was silent for a long moment. Its patterns swirled in complex ways the translator couldn't interpret. Finally, it spoke again. "You think your shields make you strong. We will find ways around them. We will prove our strength." Andrew smiled. "You still don't understand. Our strength isn't in our shields or our weapons. It's in our choice to protect rather than destroy, to help others grow rather than hunting them down." The screen went dark. The Nexari had cut the transmission. But Andrew noticed that several officers were already tracking their signal, marking the location for future reference. "They won't stop," he said quietly. "Not right away. They've been predators too long to change quickly." Laura nodded. "But each time they attack and fail, more worlds will see that their way isn't the only way. That being strong doesn't mean being cruel." "The Council has voted," first speaker Tulare announced. "The Defense Alliance is now our highest priority. All member worlds will contribute to protecting developing species." Andrew looked at the galaxy map again. The blue dots of protected worlds glowed like stars, forming new patterns of safety and cooperation. Earth's war machine had become something different, not a threat, but a shield for countless growing civilizations. "Install the next set of shields," he ordered. "Prioritize the worlds most likely to be attacked, and send out more training teams. Every species should learn to maintain their own defenses." As the command center returned to work, Laura touched the screen where the Nexari had been. "They called us unnatural for protecting others, for choosing to help rather than hurt. Because they don't understand real strength," first speaker Tulare said. "They think power only flows from violence, but Earth has shown us a better way." The day continued with more shield installations, more worlds joining the alliance, more species learning to defend themselves and others. The Nexari threat wasn't gone, but it was changing from a death sentence to a manageable problem. In the end, Earth's war machine had become exactly what humanity always hoped it would be, not a weapon of destruction, but a tool of protection. Not a force for conquest, but a shield for those who needed it most. As another Aegis shield sprang to life around another world, Andrew thought about how far they'd come. From being criticized for building defenses to teaching others how to defend themselves. From being seen as dangerous to being welcomed as protectors. The galaxy was changing. The age of helpless prey and unstoppable predators was ending. In its place, something new was growing. An alliance of worlds working together, learning from each other, protecting each other. And it had all started because humanity refused to be helpless, because Earth built shields instead of surrendering, chose to defend instead of attack, and then offered that protection to anyone who needed it. The war machine had become a peace machine, one shield at a time.